joy of whittling.
What's it gonna turn into?
It doesn't have to turn into anything.
You mean you're just cutting up a piece of wood?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Don't make a bit of sense to me.
Well, whittling's something that men do. No way in the world of explaining it to a woman.
Mr. Riggs never whittled.
Mr. Riggs missed one of the joys of life.
I believe there is something it could turn into. Something for the stove. A poker.
A wood poker? Wood for the stove?
Oh, well, how about a hanger, a coat hanger?
Why does something always have to turn into something? Why can't a chunk of wood just remain a chunk of wood?
Well, it just seems silly to me you're spending all that energy on nothing at all.
Give me a hand. Here. Whittle.
Me?
You, whittle.
Oh. Well, it is kind of fun at that.
Go on, keep going.
Are you supposed to get it kind of even?
You do it just like you feel it.
How do you know when you're finished?
Well, a man's going to come in here and say, Mrs. Riggs, you're finished. No, Maggie. When the limb gets so small you can't hang on to it, you know that you're finished.
What kind of a tree did this come from?
Pine, sweet-smelling
pine. It does smell wonderful.
You know, I kind of like the way you're doing that.
Oh, really?
I don't think I ever saw a charming whittler before. Before now.
He never sat with me. When I was sick, when I was getting the dinner, when I was looking at a magazine, he never sat with me.
Well, you don't have to talk about that now.
Oh, but I want to. All of a sudden, right now, I want to talk about it. He never whittled. He never did anything as open and honest as this.
Well, Maggie, lots of men don't whittle.
You know, winters I used to get up at the crack of dawn and look out at the way the early morning sunlight hit the snow. It seemed as if the whole world was sparkling. And then, as the months with Mr. Riggs went by and the years, I realized I was still looking out the window at the way the early morning sunlight hit the snow. But instead of thinking about the beauty, I was thinking, my, in a few hours it'll all be slush. Cold people do that, do you, Eli? They squeeze the beauty out of your life.
I understand.
He never sat with me like this.
Did you want him to?
Oh, yes. Many times. You know, Eli, a farm is a beautiful place with a man and a woman and the business of keeping it up. But a farm is an awful place when the man and the woman don't sit with each other. I used to think year after year that maybe something happened to Mr. Riggs when he was a toddler that caused him to freeze up. And I thought, well, if I just live with him and don't pressure him, why then someday he'll start to melt. And he'll melt a little at a time. And then it will be spring and the ice will all be gone. And we can sit and talk. And be a real husband and wife.
It never happened.
Never. And when he died, I had such a terrible feeling that I didn't try hard enough. But I know now that that was wrong. I did try. I tried as hard as a person could. What do you do when you finish whittling?
Well, my dear, you just open up the stove, get down on your knees, and pick up the pieces.
Yes, sir, Mr. Russell. What do you have?
The usual. Make it a double, please.
Coming right up.
Hello. It's been a long time.
A year?
No, less than that.
How are you?
Fine. Fine, thank you. And you?
Oh, terrific.
How's the Reverend? I understand he's fled the faith.
He's surviving, so I'm told.
Didn't you used to drink Boilermakers?
You mean whiskey with a beer chaser?
Yes,
No, probably with someone else.
I guess so. There's something different about you. I guess it's your hair.
That and the fact that I'm 102. And I've lost one husband, and I'm about to lose sort of another husband.
C'est la vie.
Gee, that's an interesting way of putting it, c'est la vie.
You always did have quite a wit, as I remember.
Oh, yes, my downfall. My wit is so extraordinary that I frighten people away. You know something, chum? You're getting to look a lot older.
I'm 103.
Yeah, you're getting a little gray on top.
Well, most of the women I know think it's distinguished.
Most of the women you know are rather young.
Here's to you, Jane.
Susan.
Susan.
Well, c'est la vie.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello?
Let's sit at the table.
All right.
I didn't want to put this off. I'm sure you'll agree.
Would you like to order?
What do you have, Doctor?
Just coffee, thank you.
I'll have a scotch. Soda on the side, please.
Yes, sir.
You're new here, aren't you?
First day.
Well, there always has to be one. Come to think of it, it's funny. Both of us living here in Peyton Place, and I don't think we've ever talked with each other. Just no occasion, I suppose.
Until now.
Well, I hope you realize I'm talking to you only as one concerned parent to another. I mean, I'm sure you're concerned.
Oh, yes, yes.
Let me start by saying this. I have no feelings against your race. And I've heard that your son Lou is a fine boy, a credit to...
Credit to his race, yes.
To you.
Thank you.
In some circumstances, to be frank, in other circumstances, Lou would be just the kind of boy I'd want Carolyn to be friendly with. But, well, you and I do not create the circumstances. You and I aren't everyone.
No, we're not.
I'm so glad you see it my way. You know, I've never talked with anyone like this before.
Like what?
Like what?
Yes, what are we talking about?
I'm talking about my daughter and your son.
But what are we saying about them?
I thought I was making myself clear. But just in case I'm not getting through, I don't want your son and my daughter working together on that science project.
I see. You mind telling me why not?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't want them involved. And I don't think it would be very good for you either, if they were. So if I were you, Doctor, I'd get your son to drop out of that project.
Where would you like him to drop to?
That is your business.
Coffee,
Thank you.
scotch, soda on the side.
Thank you.
No, I think that's my son's decision, or your daughter's. Have you asked her to drop out of the project?
I can see, yes, I can see how you feel. Right. I'll tell you what. I'll ask Carolyn. You ask Lou.
No, I don't think so.
Wait a moment, Doctor. I'm meeting you more than halfway.
Do you really feel that your daughter is attracted to my son? Is that what you feel? Is that it?
That's not the point.
Have you talked to her about it?
Yes, I have. She's using this relationship to strike back at her mother.
Oh, I see. She's using my son.
You have a way of twisting things, Doctor. I've been trying to talk to you man to man, father to father.
Well, as man to man, can you believe it when I say that my son has no interest in your daughter? He's not attracted to your daughter.
Hogwash. Carolyn's a very good-looking girl.
And blonde and white, yes.
Remember now, you said that.
Just because you wouldn't.
It's obvious, isn't it?
Well, it's just as obvious as, well, that your daughter is attracted to my son because he has black hair or black skin.
I'm not getting into a racial discussion with you. But if you want to keep your place in this community, if you want to stay in our hospital, you had better make sure that people do not start talking about your son or about the way you encourage him to go after a white girl.
Well, well, well.
That's just the kind of attitude that's causing trouble for you people all over this country. I met with you on a friendly basis to help solve a mutual problem, and all I get from you is hostility.
Well, I can tell you two things, Mr. Russell. One, my son has no interest in your daughter, and two, I'm not going to ask him to drop out of his science project or anything else.
Now, I'll tell you something. One thing. You and your son are in for a lot of trouble. And you had better believe it. You had better believe it.
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
It was very difficult for a man like Mr. Peyton to realize